Today we have a native Staten Islander, Andrew Kozak, who is a meteorologist for the Memphis, Tennessee affiliate of NBC. And Andrew has agreed to be on the show Entreprenuer Life because Andrew, although he works for the station, is an entrepreneur and knows a lot about promoting himself and moving around the country to do that. So Andrew, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, this is very exciting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start from the beginning. Tell us about your childhood here on Staten Island.
Well, I grew up on Staten Island. Mom, dad, younger brother, and our grandmother lived with us for a while as well. And really what started me in my path was watching The Wizard of Oz when I was about 4 or 5 years old. All I cared about was the tornado part. Once she goes and opens up the door and everything turns color, I didn't care much about that at all. I just thought that it was the coolest thing in the world. And, you know, how is something like this real? And of course it is real. And to this day, I still think one of the best tornadoes on film, even though it was made in 1939, it's just a stocking filled with a little bit of sand. So I just got interested in that. Went to the local library, took out books, and it's just kind of something I wanted to do. Watching the weather guys on TV, watching the meteorologists here in New York. It was a goal I set for myself and went to college, and now here I am 11 years later in the business doing what I love.
So this brings to mind that film with Helen Hunt about chasing tornadoes. Mm-hmm. How real is that movie?
It's real in the sense that people do it. It's not real in the sense that people don't make money from doing it. We actually discourage, because I lived out, and we'll talk about this, but I lived out in the Midwest for a long time before I moved to Memphis, Oklahoma, Kansas. Spent a better portion of about 8 to 9 years out there. Tornado chasers, we like the ones that are professional because they help us out. We don't like the amateurs because they clog up the roads. And if you have all of those chasers out on the roads when you're trying to evacuate people or tell people that they need to leave, you know, it creates traffic, creates problems, and too many times it puts a lot of people, including themselves, in danger. But yeah, for the most part, what you see in some of those movies, minus some of the crazy special effects, is real.
Oh, so like the cow in the middle of the tornado in The Wizard of Oz.
Stranger things have happened in reality. Yes, there have been tornadoes that have gone over lakes and picked up fish and frogs and then deposited that over cities and towns. So wow. Yeah, where it was literally raining frogs and fish and everything else. So that does happen, yes.
Have you ever been actually near a tornado or just observing it?
I wish. With my job, being the person to cover it and be on TV, and of course we're now streaming all the time, our live coverage and radio and really everything on your mobile device. I need to be inside. I need to be there covering the tornado when it's happening. The chasers go out and do that, but yeah, I've usually been in the safety of the studio, but covering it when those events occur.
Right. And you save lives by doing this, really, by covering major catastrophic events caused by Mother Nature. So it's not just tornadoes that you talk about.
No, I mean, if you think about it, Hurricane Sandy, kind of bringing it back to the Staten Island, aspect of it. I mean, we were watching it. I was out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, working there when Sandy came. But the meteorologists here really had a grip on that storm. It really gave us a couple of days' notice. But you did evacuate people. Now, unfortunately, some people lost their lives and a lot of people lost property and had a lot of damage. But the meteorologists were really key in letting people know, hey, guess what? You may have heard before, okay, this is going to be a bad storm. This is the storm. And there were several thousand people that did move away from those areas along Midland Beach, South Beach, and of course, those areas that got hit the hardest. People moved in, and that probably did help save quite a few lives.
Exactly. So the term meteorologist, are you really reading a meter?
No, that's what, it's funny, I just did a school talk just the other day, actually, when I came back to Staten Island for my 6th grade teacher, went back and talked to her class, and somebody was asking, so what is that? Is it the study of meters? Is it the study of meters like meteors? No, it's the scientific term for a person who studies the weather. Technically, you go and get your 4-year degree in meteorology from an accredited college, and you are a meteorologist, whether you're on television, whether you're
so you become certified at that point with the degree.
Yeah, you get the title meteorologist. It's like, when you receive a doctorate, you become a doctor. You actually become a meteorologist, but you need a 4-year meteorology degree.
Andrew, you mentioned your desire to be a meteorologist from very early
From
in
the
life,
start, yeah.
from the very beginning, watching The Wizard of Oz. And I have here your yearbook. And what school is that from?
This is from PS 54 up on Willowbrook Road, and I was the class in '93. And in our books, yearbooks, they asked kind of make a little haiku about what you like or what you do, and then on top of that, put what you want to be when you grow up. And mine was meteorologist. So from the very beginning, it was on there.
11 years old.
Yeah.
From 4 years old to 11 years old, you still kept that
Yeah.
idea in your head that that's what you want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from sixth grade, you had this in your head that you wanted to be a meteorologist, and you were interested in looking at the paper every day and the weather, I guess.
Watching the guys on TV. Grew up watching, well, some of the ones that are still there now. I mean, Mr. G. You had Stormfield, his father, Frank Field, that used to
Right.
be on CBS. And, of course, Sam Champion, which kind of led into a whole other chapter of my life, dealing with him when I got a little older.
All right. So tell us what happened after you got your meteorologist degree in college.
Well, I graduated in '04 from State University of New York up at Oneonta. But right before that, in '03, I realized that to get into this business, you really do need some real life experience that's not paid, because they're not going to pay somebody who's still in college to do the television aspect. So an internship was the most important thing for me to get. So I just made some phone calls and called up Channel 7 in New York. Everybody knows ABC 7. And at the time, it was Sam Champion, it was Bill Evans, and it was Lee Goldberg. And two of those three are still there today. I had grown up watching Bill and Sam all throughout my childhood, pretty much. And they said, well, we'd love to have you as an intern, Sam or Bill. I said, well, everybody watches Bill Evans in the morning. What time would I have to be there in the city? And they said about 3 a.m. So I said, I'll go with Sam, since that's a little bit later
He
on
was
in
the
the
later
afternoon.
shift.
Yeah, Sam worked the 5, 6, and 11 o'clock news. Obviously, everybody remembers that. It was only up to a few years ago. So in the summer of 2003 in May, I started interning for Sam, and he taught me the ropes. He showed me what he did on the green screen, off the green screen. Of course, the forecasting knowledge and working, finding out what the weather is going to be like and forecasting. That stuff I got from college. That was a lot of stuff I did on my own. But the diction and the correct way to use your hands and the correct way to navigate the green screen and talk to the audience, that was all from him. And he did that. I did that for an entire summer, and then kept the relationship going to the point where now he's gone from ABC 7 to Good Morning America to the Weather Channel. And just this past January, I was doing some hits with him. In fact, in the last week, I've done about 3 different Weather Channel back and forth hits to update him on Memphis weather with Sam. So I keep that relationship going, and of course, that's fantastic 11 years later.
So we know about the weather in New York and Memphis and California.
Yeah.
So I guess there's like a network of meteorologists that wherever the news is happening.
Well, fortunately, the Weather Channel being the nationwide national television station, you'll watch it sometimes and they'll talk about the weather in LA or in Texas or interesting stuff around the area. So Sam kind of uses me now as we call the Memphis area the Mid-South. And it's a pretty large area. The tri-state area there includes Memphis, Tennessee, Arkansas, even down toward Louisiana, Mississippi. So I kind of report when something interesting happens there, whether it was a couple of weeks ago an ice storm or the potential for record-breaking cold. They'll use me on the Weather Channel and potentially hit millions of people in the update.
Have you seen any drastic weather changes in your career due to global warming?
It's one of those things where that is such a controversial hot-button issue. I'm not a climatologist. So I kind of stay out of that, and I do what is my job, which is just to forecast on a daily basis. But I will say this, and you can kind of leave this for interpretation to yourselves, but the last couple of years, I've seen more record warm months. This has been the warmest March on record, or this has been the warmest July on record. I've seen way more of those than I saw 10 years ago. And if you look back in the books, you haven't seen as many frequent record-breaking hot months or even hot years. 2014 was one of the hottest years as well. People are very, very opinionated, but people are also very passionate about the way that they feel toward global warming. The reason why I stay out of it too, it surpasses a meteorological discussion, and it becomes a political discussion a lot of the time. So that is where I stay out of it. And that also goes back to the way of building my brand, because sometimes in this business, building your brand also means that you've got to be careful what you put into it. So that's why I stay out of the global warming hot button issues. I'm not going to ignore signs that things could possibly be there, and it's something I'm interested in. But on a daily basis, with a 3-minute weathercast, I usually stick to what the forecast is going to be for that day.
Right. So, because I consider you an entrepreneur, you're constantly promoting yourself, branding yourself. So when you get hired by a TV station, that's just not an open-end contract. You're there for a particular point in time from point A to point B, and then you have a renewal, or you have to move.
You don't have to move.
Well, tell us about what you do.
It's a very interesting way of getting hired. I mean, a lot of people I know that are contractors, for example, I have a lot of friends that are engineers and they have contracts, but they're open-ended contracts. No, my contract has a start date and a specific end date. But how it works in television is, well, if your ratings are good, if the station likes you, if people resonate with you, they have research groups that go in, and this is kind of a scary thing, but they'll actually record sometimes up to 100 hours of footage of you on a show and put it in front of focus groups, the single mom, or the man over 40, or the younger 21-year-old out of college, and see what people like about you. And if you are generating good ratings for the station, and if the station feels you are doing a good job, then 9 out of 10 times you are going to be renewed. And that is where you have the option to sit down and negotiate, or your agent. In my case, I actually have an agent. So agents do that. That kind of takes away the awkwardness of talking about money with the people that you're going to be working for and with. So you have that option. However, the contract protects the station, because you don't want to, the station doesn't want you to have a job offer from another station or another city and you just get up and leave in the middle of something, really good. So it protects you on both ends. I have a contract for a number of years, so I'm protected because I will be working for those number of years. And if the station doesn't want me to work, well, guess what? They still have to pay you. But at the end of that contract, or a few months before, we start maybe talking about, hey, do you want to stay here? Or if I want to go, I can make that known and start seeing what else is out there.
Right. Right. And in your career, certainly every place you've been, which is in different states, you learn more, right? You learn more about the equipment, the industry.
It's certainly the industry. One thing, and of course I always say, I love Staten Island. This is my home. Staten Island doesn't have its own news network that would need a meteorologist. So there's no Staten Island a weather person, but there is New York City. You've got Channel 2, Channel 4, Channel 5, I mean, all of those different channels. Unfortunately, you can't start here because this is the #1 TV market in the country. There's 212 TV markets. Glendive, Montana, I believe, is the smallest. Casper, Wyoming is market 200. That's where I started. New York is 1, LA is 2, Chicago. It goes by households and population. The bigger the market, or the closer you get to 1, the higher the salary, the usually more professional the equipment, and the more experience you usually need. So nobody starts out in a place like New York City. You have to work your way up. But I like that, and I'll tell you why. I learned a lot in my first couple of markets. I learned a lot in Casper. I learned a lot in Wichita. I learned a lot in Tulsa, and I'm still learning a lot in Memphis. But you start moving into cities like Memphis, which is more recognizable,
right,
and then you start reaping the benefits of being in the career for now what is going to be my 11th year.
So Andrew, tell us about your ad lib, the time that you drew the weather forecast on a piece of paper. I haven't seen any other meteorologist do that ever. What happened?
Well, it's funny because when I was younger, I used to get in trouble for doodling and drawing on things. And so I got a knack for doing like little cartoons and things like that. This happened in January of 2012. January of 2013. Basically, my weather computer crashed. I mean, just like anything else. We all have had computers crash. Yeah, I mean, it's common. The problem is you go into a little bit of a panic mode. See, I did the morning show in Tulsa, Oklahoma for ABC. You go into a panic mode when I need to be on the air at 4:30 and 4 o'clock. I sit down to do the graphics and make the graphics that you see on TV because I'm done with all the forecasting. And the computer gave me that blue screen of death we've all seen. That's a concern. So we did not have computer graphics. I did not know what I was going to do. There was no other backup that we had because the main computer that controlled all the other computers, that's the one that crashed. It's not supposed to happen. So after making some frantic telephone calls, realized I wasn't able to get that back up for a good hour, hour and a half. Sat there and saw that I had about 15 minutes to air, looked at a couple of pieces of paper by the printer, looked at a couple of markers that I had that was sitting there on the table and said, let's just draw the forecast. So I drew it, and the radar was clear, so that was nice. I just drew the state of Oklahoma with nothing on it. I drew the 8-day forecast there. We were Channel 8, so we had an 8-day forecast, and I just asked the camera guy, just zoom in, and I would pick up the next piece of paper. There's your tonight, mostly clear. Pick it up, and I drew the stars, and then at the very end, I found out that we got the computers back, so I drew a couple little cartoon faces of me going, yes, I'm very happy. We always upload that forecast to our internet site so people can play back the forecast for the day if they're at work and they missed the morning show. That's the one we uploaded. That got picked up by national media and was on something like 200 different television stations locally. Good Morning America, Anderson Cooper on CNN. And I had friends that lived in China at the time for work and saw it played on there. Yeah.
Talk about going global.
Yeah, I mean, that went viral, that went national, and that went global. That was my little 15 minutes of fame.
Wow. And that certainly helped your career. It's for the next station to really sit up and take notice when you're ready to, be offered another contract or renewal.
Yeah, let's just say when I went to Memphis, right away people came in, and when they saw my name or when I went in to interview producers, directors, other weather people, like, you're the guy that drew the forecast. We played you on our station.
Right.
Chances are, no matter what station I go to in my career, wherever I go, they probably have played that video on.
Right. So that's part of your brand now.
It is part of your brand.
The graphic, the artist, Andrew Kozak, meteorologist.
Well, and you make it part of your brand, but you don't live in the past with it. You don't milk it the wrong way. In other words, I haven't, and I will not go and say, hey, I'm the guy that did that, hire me. What you do is, hey, look, I can think under pressure. I was able to turn a scary situation of not having basically anything to do that morning to show what I've done for weather to, hey, I took nothing, made something out of it, and that's how I made the situation work for me. So a lot of times, and this kind of transcends every career, you're always going to have that interview question, how do you work under pressure? Or give me an example of a time that you were able to make something out of nothing or get out of a sticky situation. So I use that as a way to brand, hey, I was that guy, but this is what it's all about.
Excellent. That's the way to do it, certainly. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about
I just think
yourself?
I think that when it comes to, especially with what you do on your show, certainly I'm not somebody that's opened up their own business or an entrepreneur in the classic sense, but I think that a lot of times if you are about trying to build your brand, if you are about trying to go out there and make yourself known, whether it's because you're an entrepreneur in the classic sense or like me, you've got to build that brand of yourself. We were talking about how we've got marketing people at my station to say, hey, watch our morning news. But these days with social media, with Facebook, with Twitter, with Instagram, with every other medium that you have out there, and YouTube, you've got to go and promote yourself. Nobody can promote you better than you. And that's what you've got to learn to do. And a lot of times it's organic. You just kind of do that. If you are just starting up a social media channel and you don't have any followers, keep posting stuff anyway. Things get shared. And it's amazing how something that you can post after a few hours, you can have thousands and thousands of people seeing your brand. So I think it's just all about consistency and trying to build yourself up because, like I said, nobody's going to do that better than yourself.
That's right. So you have a Facebook channel, social media channels?
I have. I'm just getting into Instagram. I know that's what the kids are doing these days. So I got that. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel. And it all goes back to promoting the main goal, which is for our viewers to watch in Memphis. But it's also good because I've got people from all over the world. I've got followers in Japan. why do they care about what I have to post in Memphis? I don't know, but it's all good, and it's all getting the brand out, and you never know where you're going to wind up. So all the viewers and all the followers that I have in Staten Island, I'm followed by several people in Staten Island. That's great, because maybe one day I'll be here in New York. We'll see. But it's nice having that brand, and as many people as you can reach globally, the better. There's no harm in it.
That's right. How many followers do you have now?
I am all together on social media. It's in the tens of thousands. Facebook is getting a little less and less. It seems like these days people are navigating to the Twitters, the Instagrams. So it's building. I haven't sat down and looked at each one and added it up, but I know that one YouTube video that I had that went viral with that had something like 401,000 views just on one channel, and then that doesn't count how many times it's been shared. So yeah,
let's talk about exponential media coverage.
You couldn't pay for that type of of marketing.
Andrew, you talked about being in Oklahoma, now in Memphis, and different channels. So you've moved around a lot in your career. Is this kind of a prerequisite for increasing your brand and being more popular and adding a value proposition to your career?
I would say almost 100%. Probably the reason why I would hesitate to say it's absolutely necessary in my career would be there'd be no reason to move around if you wanted to stay in the hometown that you're from. Let's say I was from Wichita, or let's say I was from Oklahoma City or Tulsa. Then I would maybe think about the fact that, hey, I have family here, I want to stay. And people do that. People do that all the time. But if you want to increase your marketability to go really anywhere you want and write your own contract, so to speak, you do have to move around a little bit. And this kind of transcends not just my career, but probably a lot of people that are in this type of thing. You've got to be willing to make some changes. You've got to be willing to move around. And you've got to be willing to roll with the punches. I think probably the worst thing you can get into is being comfortable and stable where you are in my business, at least the first half of your career. And that's if you want to move up. For example, I would love to come back to New York or somewhere along the East Coast. I'm really happy where I am now, and Memphis is actually a fantastic place, not just to be a newscaster, because we've got plenty of news there, but weather is fantastic because we get a little bit of everything in Memphis, Tennessee. And weather's certainly not keeping me bored, but you are more of a value to a prospective employer or to prospective clients or viewers, because we look at our viewers as clients, because they are. I mean, if you think about it, they are the ones that are buying the advertising, right? The people that are viewers are the ones that own the businesses and pay for their advertising. But we are more marketable if we have moved around a little bit, because the more experience you get, the less stable you are in the beginning. Never let yourself get comfortable, because if you do that, you are going to kind of forget that, hey, things change. There's a wide world out there. And some of the best people that I've learned from and the best people that I've worked with, 6-7 stations under their belt. Sam Champion was a fantastic example. He built his brand to the point where people wanted him. And that's why Good Morning America picked him up right away. That's why he has his own show on the Weather Channel, because he built his brand with his name. But he didn't start in New York. Sam Champion started in Paducah, Kentucky. He went to small markets in Jacksonville, Florida. You have to move around. And every place you go to, you pick up and you learn. If you want to stay in those places, that's fine too, because you may be from there or you may be really comfortable. And if that's what you want to do, that's great. But if your goal is just to continue to grow and build your image bigger and build your brand bigger, then I think getting that experience and moving around and learning is absolutely essential.
When you talk about moving and growing and changing, that's the motif of an entrepreneur. And when you've seen my show and the interviews I have, entrepreneurs are always in the forefront, and they always say, I can't rest, because if I rest, I stop. And if I stop, my business stops. And then I stop working, and I can't do that. So it's always like you're always feeding what I call the train, always putting some coal on the fire and making the engine just keep going and going and going. And that's how you get someplace. Yeah. And it's like that for your career or learning a new skill or relationship. You just keep going that way.
Yeah, and I think that you know, for a lot of people, for example, for a lot of people that may be watching that have ideas or they're entrepreneurs here on Staten Island, you know, that's not to say, hey, you need to move away, come back. No, but I think it's adapting to change. And you know, you can put it where in my career I've got to move around and do different things to get that experience. But you know, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I think you can kind of put it back to the landscape may change. You may just have to adapt. And that's in itself changing because look, 10 years ago, we would never have done a lot of this stuff on social media. I mean, we were just getting into it. I don't think any of us had any idea how important it is to build your brand. And of course, it's organic a lot of the time. Now, Facebook, they want to make you pay sometimes for things, but you know, if you're really good at it, if you can adapt to what people are looking for in any type of business, you can actually give yourself more promotion for free using social media and building your brand that way than any amount of money can ever pay for advertising. And you know, I mean, word of mouth is the old adage that's it's free, right? Word of mouth is the easiest way to get things out. But now it's social media kind of piggybacks right on that word of mouth. So you have to adapt to kind of what people want and being in tune with things that are changing. When landscape of any business changes, you've got to be there on the forefront because if you miss it, everybody else that has thrown the coal on the fire, they're going to pass you by, and then you're going to be stuck behind.
That's right. That's right. So your parents, were they ever are they entrepreneurs or are they?
You know, they were really, I mean, they have more traditional careers, although, you know, my mom does, you know, she does travel. She manages a travel agency, and that's sort of building with the word of mouth because her business is a small one on Staten Island, and they a lot of times are getting their business from the word of mouth. So that's a, you know, a pseudo way of kind of talking about it. And my father was a teacher, still is a professor up at Wagner College. But he has a side project that he does. He's a NASA ambassador, and he does talks all over Staten Island, and he's been
and the world,
really, yeah. But he has to build his brand up, and that includes 2 novels that he has under his belt, and promoting it on social media, and going out there and promoting himself when he does these talks. And it's not because he wants to make money from it, which he actually doesn't. It's a hobby, but that's his brand. Doing that NASA ambassador stuff is his hobby. I mean, he's been interested in astronomy since I can remember. So he's sort of adapted as well. He's got a different sort of business, and his business, although it's a hobby slash really, you know, kind of concentrated part of what he does in his field, he's used that same exact kind of way of adapting as well, getting out there, publishing 2 books, that type of thing. But they were really encouraging because I'm the first one from my family to leave Staten Island in the sense of leaving this area to go ahead and pursue a career. But they were fantastic in helping me to realize that, hey, nothing should hold you back from this.
Right.
This is what you want to do since you were 5 years old, and go ahead and do it.
That's it. So passion drives the entrepreneur. Passion drives change. Mm-hmm. Passion drives your interest in continuing to learn and grow. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you, Andrew, for coming to Staten Island to be part of the show and tell us about your background. It's a very interesting background. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And come back and see us again.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.